What's up, y'all? I hope that your day is off to a great start. I hope that you're having a great week, and welcome to The Garden. I'm your host, Taryn Balzana, and I am so glad that you're here. I first just want to say thank you for being so gracious with me. Aside from remaining to put out an episode every week, I've been very inconsistent with upload times and sometimes even upload days. And I just really appreciate you guys for being so gracious, and still listening and still watching and still sharing and all the things. It really means a lot. It's kind of funny and totally God how this series would line up so well with where I am at in life. This talk about seasons, as I kind of feel like I'm in the midst of all of them at once. And I just have insight to each season in this season that I'm in. There's so many times previous that I wanted to do this series, and I just didn't feel the go ahead. And then I did, and then I got engaged, and now I'm planning a wedding, and I'm planning on moving, and there's so many things going on in life. As I try to encourage you in these seasons, preparing for these episodes is just as encouraging to me. And it's kind of giving me the opportunity to just be really open and vulnerable with you guys, as I always want to do. And truly give some first-hand experience. So, with all that being said, we're going to dive in to today's episode, which is about fall. And fall is, as we all know, the season of change. Fall is correlated with the changing of leaves, and plants seem to be withering, and changes in weather, and so many changes. But there's also fall in normal life. There is that season where you just go through a lot of changes. And I am very much in the midst of fall, as I also feel like I'm in the midst of spring and summer and winter in a way. But definitely wholeheartedly feeling like I'm in the midst of fall. Fall is where we gather what's grown and release what's done. Today we're going to talk about gratitude. We're going to talk about surrender and the beauty that letting go can actually have. The beauty in surrender, and how it's really important to just have gratitude in all things, because for all things there is a purpose. Sometimes God's harvest doesn't look like what we expected, but it's always what we need. Sometimes the things that he takes from our lives in this season of fall, in this season of change, sometimes the things that he decides to change in our lives are not what we expect, but it's what we need. Or maybe it's the result of answered prayers. Maybe it's what you've prayed for, but you didn't think that the prayer was going to be answered like this. And then you're caught in the middle of these are answered prayers, but I didn't think that they were going to be answered like this. So in a sense, mourning what you have to give up for the answered prayers, but being excited for the answered prayers. Changes. They're beautiful, they're exciting. They're also very difficult and hard and challenging. If you're familiar with Ecclesiastes 3:1, where it refers to there being a season and a time for everything, Fall reminds me of where it says there is a time to pluck up what is planted. It also reminds me of where it says there is a time to gather stones together. You plant, and then you pluck up what is planted. And when I think of that, I automatically think of moving. And I am preparing to move. I have been planted here in my hometown in this state for most of my life. And now I am to pluck up what has been planted so that it can be relocated, so that it can now be planted in new soil. And so determining what that new soil is, where that new soil is, all these different things is challenging. And you might have the fear of, well, if I replant, will I thrive as much as I did in my former environment? You also could have the fear of never having really thrived in your current environment and being afraid that no matter where you are, you don't really know what beauty would look like because you've never really experienced it before. So there's so many different ways to go with this. And it's a challenge and it's complicated and all the things. As you might be in a season of change, of fall, of having to pluck up what has been planted, maybe it means you're moving to a new state. Maybe it means you're moving to a new house. Maybe it means you're looking for a new job. Maybe you've been planted in a marriage and now you're in the midst of divorce. Maybe you've been planted as a mother and now you're facing an empty nest. Maybe you've been planted in a town and you're about to go off to college. Maybe you've been planted at college and now you have to find a big girl job or a big boy job. So plucking up what is planted, being planted somewhere else doesn't necessarily, it can mean a multitude of different things. Whatever season of change that you might be in the midst of, change is change. And there's still a part of you that has to relocate. There's still a part of you that has to pluck up what's been planted. Maybe you've been planted in a certain mindset and you have to change it. Maybe you've been planted in anxiety or depression. And now you're experiencing healing, but you've never known life without it, so it's totally new to you. I'm throwing out all these different scenarios because it can literally mean so many different things. But there is a time and a season for all things according to God. The other thing that fall reminds me of, like I said, is where it says in Ecclesiastes 3, there is a time to gather stones together. Fall is often known as a harvest season, and harvest means that you go gather your crops. A time to gather stones together. That's what I think of. And as you gather stones together, I think of gathering materials, preparing for what is to come. And if you're in this midst of change, then you have to gather your stones together. Then you have to be ready for whatever God has for you on the other side, whatever this change looks like and what it fully manifests into. You want to be prepared, right? Or as prepared as you can be. So you gather stones together. And in my mind, what that looks like to me is prayer, is seeking the Lord, is reading his word, gathering your stones together, gathering your harvest, relying on his promises that you know to be true, relying on his character, gathering in the word into your heart, hiding it in your heart. So in these moments of change, in these moments when it's challenging and hard, you've gathered your stones together. You've prepared. Maybe if you are moving, it's spending time with friends. It's soaking in every moment you have where you are before it changes. Spending time with family. Just truly soaking it in, gathering your stones together. So that when you go into this next season, you will have known that you stewarded your season of change well. That you are prepared. Hide the word of God in your heart. Pray and seek his face daily. Lord, I know that this season is coming to an end. Lord, I know that I'm in the season of change, that I'm in the midst of this change. So, Lord, how do you want me to steward this well? Before everything changes, what do you want me to do while I'm still here? What stones do you want me to gather? What stones do you want me to leave? John 15:1 and 2 mentions how God lovingly prunes what's no longer needed. Fall shows us that letting go isn't loss, it's preparation. We often look outside to the leaves changing and falling, and when they fall, we're like, that tree's dead. But that's not what it means. The tree is preparing for the next season. And those leaves can't go into the next season. New leaves have to grow. And in order for new leaves to grow, those leaves have to fall away. And in order for you to grow, there's things that have to fall away. And you may think that it's a loss, but it's really preparing you for new growth and something that's going to end up being so much better than you could have ever imagined. If God's in charge, you can count on it being better than anything you could have ever imagined. Sometimes God asks us to release things that were once good so he can make space for what's better. It's not like that there was anything really wrong with those leaves. It's just that it was time for new ones. And the tree has to go through a season of preparation before new ones can grow. And in all of this, we have to surrender. Now, some think that surrender means giving up, but that's not at all what it means. It means trusting God's timing, God's plan, more than our own. If we trusted him enough for our salvation, if we trusted him enough with the result of where we're going to go when we die, don't you think we can trust him with this too? Whatever this is for you? Because I think so. We once believed in him so wholeheartedly for our salvation. And yet we doubt that he can make a way through this. That this change is going to be for the better. Just like the trees don't fight the falling of the wind, we're invited to loosen our grip and let God be the one that carries us through. Galatians 6:9 encourages us not to grow weary, because in due season we will reap if we do not give up. See, I am in the midst of a lot of changes that I'm aware of. I know that I'm about to get married. I know that I will be changing my last name. I know that I will be changing where I live. I know that I will be now living with a boy. I know that a lot of my life is going to look very different. But as many of those changes, as much as I know a lot of those changes and what they look like, there's also a lot that comes with marriage that I'm not really sure what it's going to look like. And maybe you're going through some changes that you never saw coming. And you have no idea what God is doing with this. You have no idea what's on the other side of this. But I encourage you to not grow weary. Don't give up. Keep trusting Him. Keep praying. Keep hiding the Word of God in your heart. Keep reading His Word. Learning His character. Spending time with Him. And you will reap. You will have your season of gathering the harvest. You will see the bloom of all of those seeds. And right now, it looks like the wind is just blowing them all away. But it's only because He has a greater purpose. It's only because He has a plan. And you have to trust Him. And I don't say that lightly. I know it's easier said than done. But it's so important that we trust Him. If you trusted Him with your salvation, you can trust Him with this. He's never failed. And He's not going to start now. Change is hard. And it's challenging. And as excited as I am, and as thankful as I am for the very answered prayers that are before me, as excited as I am to marry this man, to pursue the Lord together, to be married to Him, as excited as I am, I'm also leaving everything I've ever known. It's my time to gather stones, to pluck up what's been planted for so long. And change is hard. And maybe you're struggling with being in the midst of something so beautiful and then feeling guilty for being sad about what you have to let go. Knowing that things are never going to look like this again. But you don't need to feel guilty. God knows that change is hard. Just go to Him with it. Be honest with Him. There's so much relief found when you just pour it out to Him. He's not going to get mad at you saying, you prayed these prayers, and now you're upset that I'm answering them. That's not the God we serve. That's not our God. He understands. He knows it's hard. He just asks that you come to Him and that you trust Him. There are days where it's hard. For me, it's hard going up to have dinner with my parents every single night, knowing that these nights are getting fewer, that the days going to my home church are getting fewer, that the time with my friends and my community is getting fewer, and life is gonna be really different really soon. But I also trust God. And I know that God is really gracious. I also know that my soon-to-be husband is really gracious. And that both of them understand that change is hard. And that you can be excited for the new thing and still sad about what you have to leave behind. Now, I know it's not like I'm never going to see my family again or never have family dinners again or never, but it's just not going to be the same. And I want you to know that if you are in a season of change and it's things you've prayed for, but you still have a sadness for what's required to step into this change, that's okay. It's okay. And you're not the only one. I'm not the only one either. Everyone has experienced this. Change is challenging, and it's hard, and it's scary, but it's necessary. And there's new growth coming. There's prettier things coming. You thought your garden was beautiful now. God wants to make it so much bigger and better and more beautiful. But we have to trust Him. I prayed these prayers. The Lord is answering them. And if I trusted Him enough to pray these prayers, then I have to trust Him enough for how He sees fit to answer them. And I do. Doesn't mean that it's not hard sometimes, but I do. And so I just want to encourage you, if you are in a season of change, that you are not alone, that it is very hard and challenging, but also beautiful and exciting all at the same time. Both things can be true. You're not a terrible person for being sad about what you have to leave behind to step into these answered prayers. You don't need to feel guilty about it. You're just human. And you have emotions. And you were made to have emotions. It's okay. But I just encourage you to seek the Lord, to trust Him, to pray, to read His word and hide it in your heart, so that you can encourage yourself and be encouraged on the days when it is extra hard, and be reminded of the truth and what God says. I love you guys so much. I hope you have a great rest of your day, a great rest of your week. Again, thank you for being so gracious with me. Thank you for coming to the garden and choosing for it to be a source for your growth. Guys, we have a super exciting episode next week with some very special guests that you do not want to miss. Please don't miss it. Very special guests with so much wisdom and insight. It was such a fun conversation. You don't want to miss it. Please tune in next week, which is Thanksgiving, I know, but so many of us travel to and from different locations. Maybe you listen to it while this one will be up early, I promise. It will drop at midnight on Thursday next week. Be ready, because you won't want to miss it. Listen to it while you're getting ready. Listen to it while you're driving to your different Thanksgiving plans. I don't know, but there's a little bell on YouTube. If you click it or if you subscribe, you'll get notifications when new episodes drop. If you follow the show on Apple Podcasts, I'm not sure about Spotify because I'm not a Spotify user, but if you follow the show on Apple Podcasts, you will also get notifications when new episodes drop, and you do not want to miss next week's episode, I promise you. So good. Very special guests. You guys are going to love it. I love you. I hope you have a great rest of your day, a great rest of your week. I know we are celebrating Thanksgiving a little bit early this year and doing it this week, so I know that there's others that are also doing that. So if you are, I hope you have a great time with your family, that you just enjoy each other's company, And know, and I know, we all know that when all the family gets together, that makes a lot of room for potential drama. But I just want you to remember that life is short. And whatever the argument might be over, whatever the drama might be, it's not worth it. Let me just tell you that it's not worth it. And life is short. As morbid as that sounds, and I know we've all heard the line, it is. And it's the simple fact. And that argument's probably not going to matter in a few hours or a few days. Definitely not in a few years. So just don't make mountains out of molehills. Smile, move on, respect each other's opinions. Just enjoy the holiday. Be together, be present, be thankful, and just enjoy your time with your family. I love you guys so, so much, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.